if you don't understand Portuguese and French, you'll need to click on English. So if everybody that doesn't understand at least one of those three languages, so Portuguese, French, English, if you go down to the bottom of your screen, there's an interpretation button. If you go onto it and select the language that's you're most happy listening and speaking in, then anything you say will be translated and anything you hear will be translated. If anyone doesn't understand that, put a message in the chat. But yeah, there will be bits that will be in different languages. It won't all be in English. And if you haven't got the translation selected, you won't get it translated. So we've got France, Germany, Swiss, French. USA, Austria. So is Vincent, is Salawi, I don't know how to say it, Gela Oschenherz, the Austrian CSA network? The other thing I wanted to say is we're going to do, as part of an international action, after the first sort of short introduction section, Josela from Urgency is going to lead us in an online action for which it would be great if everybody could get, if possible, a vegetable or a kitchen implement. So if you don't, for some strange reason, have a vegetable or a kitchen implement on your desk in front of you, if you could disappear quickly and get one, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So I'll just introduce and say the beginning bits one more time to check everyone's got them. Welcome. I'm Susie Russell, coordinator of the UK CSA Network, and we are all here today for the V3 session of the Urgency International Symposium, which is called Recipes and Ingredients for a Successful CSA Network. And we've got chefs from 8 different countries who have been cooking up their CSA networks for many years and are going to talk to us about what makes them work. We're going to do an action after the first section, which involves a vegetable or a kitchen implement. So if you don't have one, please run off and get one. I have a squash here. And also, if you didn't hear before, the session is being interpreted into English, Portuguese and French. So whichever, if you don't speak all 3 of those languages fluently, then I suggest that you click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select the language you're most comfortable in, and you'll get everything translated into that language. So we're going to make a start. We've got 8 different CSA networks represented on the panel, as it were, and possibly some more in the audience, but we're going to run this as a kind of informal meeting. So there's a series of questions. A couple of people will speak to each question, and then at the end of each question, if you want to add something, please put your hand up. So at the bottom of the screen, there's a reactions button. If you click on it, you'll get the option of raising your hand. I'll be able to see that you've raised your hand, and then if you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or just make a comment, really, it doesn't have to be questions, it could be a comment. That would be great. So the first sort of section really is the 8 of us introducing ourselves. So I'm going to start. I'm Susie Russell. I'm the coordinator of the United Kingdom Community Supported Agriculture Network. We have over 170 farm members across the UK. We reckon that we're feeding around 50,000 people from CSA, and we were established in 2013. So we're just going to give an introduction to our network, how many member farms we have, how many people we think we're feeding if we know, the country we're from, and when we were established. So I am now going to hand over to Annika from Germany.
Hi, I'm Annika. I'm an employee for the German network. The network was established in 2011, so it's our 10th anniversary this year. We have right now 206 member farms, and we have 105 farms in founding. We count them differently. So yeah, it's a growing number right now. I will pass on to François.
Donc bonjour à tous, je suis ravi de voir ou de revoir aussi certaines personnes parmi vous. Donc cet après-midi pour le Miramap, nous sommes deux, donc Evelyne Boulogne et moi-même. Donc on est des administrateurs et des membres actifs bénévoles du Miramap, qui est le réseau de l'ASC qu'on appelle les AMAP en France. Donc le Miramap a la particularité d'être un réseau de réseaux d'AMAP parce qu'il existe des réseaux régionaux qui ont une action plus de terrain auprès des AMAP, alors que le Miramap a plus un rôle de coordination, de mutualisation et de représentation nationale. Donc les chiffres, en France, on compte plus de 2000 associations AMAP, chacune en partenariat avec un ou plusieurs paysans. Et on estime que cela représente environ 3700 paysans en France, la plupart ayant d'autres débouchés que les AMAP. Également, de manière très approximative, on pense qu'il y a entre 200 000 et 300 000 mangeurs en AMAP en France. Donc voilà, donc le mouvement des AMAP a démarré en 2001. On a fêté les 20 ans il y a quelques semaines. Et donc c'était dans le sud-est de la France. Et du coup, le réseau national, Miramap, lui a été créé en 2010. Voilà. Et donc je passe la parole à Michel.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you all. My name is Michelle Weiler. I'm the co-founder of the CSA Innovation Network in the US, and we were established in 2018, so not that long ago. And we're really facilitating connections and idea sharing among the organizations who support CSAs, in addition to the farmers themselves. So we have about 15 organizations across the country, and we serve approximately 800 CSA farms. So I will pass to Geneviève.
Yes, hello everyone. Great to be here with you. So my name is Geneviève Grossenbacher. I'm representing here the Réseau des Fermiers de Famille, which is the biggest, or was the biggest family network in the world until recently. I am personally a small-scale farmer. I've been farming for 11 years. We do 350 boxes, but to go back to the network, there's 166 main farms. So there's 26 farmers who also provide vegetables to that network. We estimate that we reach about 60,000 different members or clients, or 28,000 families. We're really only in Quebec, which is one of the many provinces of Canada, but we also, there's one farm in another province. And then we do about 10 million in sales each year. And I just want to say we're celebrating 25th year, so we're very proud about that. And if we get to it, I want to talk to you about our online promotional tool, which is really unique and helps us manage our farmers. So over to Kazumi, I think.
Hello, everyone. This is Kazumi Kondo from Japan. I'm representing Japan Organic Agriculture Association. I'm a director of international department of that organization. And our organization was founded in 1971, which is about 50 years ago. We actually celebrated our 50th anniversary this month. So we are kind of old, but old organization, but not necessarily CSA network. We are unique in that sense. We have Teikei. We promote Teikei, which is a Japanese version of CSA, but we didn't have our network. That is a little different from other organizations. But we have been cultivating CSA or Teikei things for many years. And yeah, that's all. Thank you. And next will be, sorry.
Toria? Toria, would you like to go?
Oui, oui, vous m'entendez? Vous m'entendez? Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, parfaitement.
Ben, moi, je ne vous entends plus. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Ok. Bon, ok, parce que je n'entendais plus personne. Oui, bonjour. Donc, moi, je suis Touria Tarouche du Maroc. Nous avons créé le réseau RIAM, réseau des initiatives agroécologiques au Maroc, il y a 5 ans qu'il a été formalisé, mais il existe déjà depuis longtemps et surtout avant, on avait créé une association locale qu'on appelait les Soignis et qui est une AMAP locale avec des paniers et un petit peu le système français, quoi. Actuellement, nous avons une centaine d'adhérents et nous travaillons beaucoup sur les régions. Bon, le Maroc est quand même aussi un grand pays, donc on travaille sur les régions pour essayer de développer via le système du SPG qui est aussi un gros chantier. Bon, voilà, bonne réunion et on est là pour la suite.
So I guess I'm the last one from the group to introduce myself. So Gaëlle, I'm the president of the French-speaking Swiss CSA Network. So we have about 30 groups. We don't have, we have different models of CSAs, so a bit different from other countries, I would say. The network is about 10 years old, a bit older than that, but the first CSA celebrated their 40th birthday a few years ago, their anniversary, and the second is celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. So we have an old experience, even though we are quite small, as we have a French-speaking network and it's a German-speaking network in my country. So that's the thing of this tiny country. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That was great. So we've got quite a diversity of networks, and then within that, quite a diversity of CSA. We've got some networks that are kind of networks of networks, some networks that have been going for 50 years, others that are much younger, like the one in the UK we're only 8 years old. And yeah, I guess representing different numbers of farms. So it'd be really interesting through this session to see the differences and similarities between us. I just wondered, before we move on to the vegetable action, are there any other networks represented amongst people listening in? If there are, do you want to put up your hand and introduce yourselves? Anyone from other countries, from CSA networks, from any other countries that haven't spoken? Nope. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Josla to do the vegetable action. Josla, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
And can you see me? Yeah. Actually, I will add myself to the panel just for a second. So, Good Food, Good Farming actually is an action, a Europe-wide action, which is taking place every year in October, with many different actions taking place all over Europe. So it's like a collective thing. And I think, Annika will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it came originally from Germany, where there is this big demonstration every year, which is called Wir haben es satt. So we got enough, or we are fed up, actually. I'm going to share the link to the action, and basically it's very simple, but what I'm going to ask you to do is here's the link, is to take your vegetable, as am I doing. Actually, I have to put the background off so you can see that. Wait a second. Here I go. I try to take it off. Okay, yeah. So it will be better for the action. This is a big one, right? Okay. So I don't know who's got a vegetable. You should take it on now. Vegetable. Let me try to have a gallery style. If it works well, I need to take a picture. We are actually being recorded as well, so it can be a nice video if we say something all together. I see quite a lot of vegetables. If you don't have a veggie, please take a kitchen tool, kitchen utensil, anything like this. And that's really nice, really cool. I don't know if somebody has something nice to say, like food sovereignty now or something like this. CSA for everyone now. Sorry, I'm taking the picture at the same time, so please smile.
CSA around the world.
CSA around the world, that's perfect.
Food sovereignty now.
What do we want? Food sovereignty. When do we want it? Now.
Now.
What do we want?
Food sovereignty.
When do we want?
Now.
Perfect. Really nice. Okay, and actually I see only part of the people here. I will go to the next screen and do the same thing. And I think we will be done. Perfect. And some more people are joining us. They missed something. I'm sorry for them. Thank you so much. That's it for us. And back to you, Susie. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thanks, Josla. Thank you, everyone. The more we can get together and speak our message, the better. So we're going to go on to some questions now. The first question is, what would you say are the essential ingredients to establish a successful CSA network? So they might be external ingredients like policy or incoming funding, or they might be internal ingredients like a particular role or a particular knowledge, a particular, I don't know, history. And I'm going to ask that question first to Annika.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I think the most important thing and the first thing you need is a group of committed people. So obviously you cannot do it by alone or on your own. And maybe it seems too simple, but we represent community supported agriculture. So also the network should be also about community, and you should have a community and organize a community to start this. And then, but the next step is also important if you want it to be continuous and stable. You need like external resources, like financial resources to go. So in our experience, from only voluntary work to also paid work. It's like, that this is also maybe a personal opinion of myself. Only a voluntary work will not save the world. We also need paid structures that really can work on the change. And to have this, like in our network, we have still so much voluntarily work going on, but it's important to back them up and to have like a continuity, and also, I like the word game in English, a responsibility to make sure that you're able to respond to things that come in. Then other ingredients that are really good is to set common goals at a certain point, and of course, always have close contact to your members and their needs. This is it from my side. And there's much more you can add on, like little spices in the further process, but this would be like the main ingredients to start cooking the soup.
Thanks, Annika. So we've got an organised community, external resources, and communication with members and setting of goals. Gael, I wonder what your suggestions are. I'm aware a couple of people have said that the French translation has gone. Is that still the case?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't hear anything in French?
Okay, let me see that, sorry. On vous entend la cabine française? Ah, c'est bon.
Okay, it's back. Thank you. Gael.
Yes. Okay. So I can answer to two levels, maybe at the Swiss level, and then I took part in writing the declaration for urgency at European level. So I think it's interesting too. So I'll give two answers. I'm the president of a small network. We only have 30 groups, initiatives in our network, but to me, it's very important to meet people in person. It does make a difference. People answer my emails if they've seen my face. It's as stupid as that. If I send emails, people don't always answer, but if they connect, every time a new group want to get into our network, we visit them, we get interested in what they're doing, we discuss with them, and then they get into the network. So it might be a long process, but as they understand much more what CSA is all about, it's very interesting and we are connected. So to us, transparency is key. So we are transparent about everything, how the money is spent, what we do, how we work, who's in, who's out, for what reason. It's very open. And we also want people to feel connected to the other groups. So every time a new member enters our network, we kind of suggest who they should connect with, on what issue or what question they could get the answer from another person. So what would be interesting for them. So we try to put them into the network so they get connected to the others. So to us, it's super important. The second part of my answer would be at urgency European level. We worked on a common declaration a few years ago, and I think the process of writing it and coming to common goals and what we wanted was as important as the final result. Just connecting with the people, discussing, putting out ideas, trying to translate them, going back and forth to our local countries, our local context, but coming with a common idea of what CSA was all about was very interesting. And I think it was very important in building a community of people around the idea of CSA. And what I found very interesting about that when I came back to Switzerland with the final result, and some farmers said, that's exactly how I feel. I was very impressed because we spent so much time going back and forth from our own language to English or French and trying to translate and having the good ideas in this declaration. But the whole process was interesting. So sometimes I insist that people should start writing things together, even if the final result is not perfect, at least writing it and working on it is super important to me. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Gael. Has anyone else from the networks represented got any sort of thoughts or reflections on what Annika and Gael have said? Could you put your hand up if you do? Or anyone from the audience too, feel free to jump in. Genevieve.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more with everything that was said, but just on the, the external sources are funding. I think for us in Quebec anyway, making sure that the CSA, for each person who subscribed to a box, there's $18 plus tax that goes to the network. And that has given us so much stability over the years. Actually, for the first 14 years, we had virtually two of the same staff almost at all times. So incredible stability. And my second point to that is, not only is it important, we're noticing now that not only is it important to have paid staff, but the more stable the staffing is, the better it is, because you have so much, you can build so much further in the amount of time that you have instead of rebuilding and retraining. So I would say those are two things I would specify.
Thanks, Genevieve. Anyone else? I guess I wanted to, yeah, I mean, all of the points that have been made by all three of you, actually, I'd really echo. I think the funding or resourcing is absolutely essential. And one of the things I'm really interested in is models like the one you've just described, Genevieve, where members pay into a central network, I think can really help. So our farms all pay a subscription to be members of the network, but we're trying to encourage the members of those farms to also pay in, because we worked out if we're feeding 50,000 people, even if each of them only put £1 or €1 in each year, that would give us 50,000 euros or 50,000 pounds a year, which would be an amazing, I mean, that's practically our annual turnover. So that would be great. I guess the other thing that really sort of resonated with me was what Gael said about meeting and seeing face to face. So when new farms join, we spend around an hour with them on the phone, talking to them about what stage they're at. And actually that makes a huge difference to our connection with them and also our ability to support them, because from that call, we get a feeling for what they want to do, what they know about CSA, who's going to be the best person to connect them with. And then we also do an annual survey. So in the kind of January, February every year, we talk to about between a third and a half of our members, again on the phone for around an hour, and it's a huge undertaking. We've only got 3 part-time staff. It's a lot of time, but actually those 40 hours of connection really help us understand where the movement is at, where the more established CSAs are at, where the new CSAs are at, what they need, what they want, what their perception of CSA is, and what we can do to support it. So that connection feels absolutely essential. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is, what's the biggest challenge that your network has overcome, and how did you overcome it? So Francois, I'm going to ask, well, you or Evelyn to speak first on that one.
Alors, pour nous, en France, l'un des grands enjeux qu'on a eu à affronter au Miramap, c'était après son démarrage, donc en 2010, alors qu'il y avait beaucoup d'AMAP et de réseaux régionaux qui existaient déjà. Il fallait obtenir la reconnaissance de tous ces acteurs du mouvement des AMAP déjà en place, sachant que même les membres actifs des réseaux qui ont été à l'origine du Miramap, puisque le Miramap a été créé via des réseaux locaux ou régionaux déjà existants, même eux n'étaient pas forcément prêts à considérer que certaines missions devaient revenir à une instance nationale comme le Miramap. Donc quand je parle de reconnaissance, c'était avoir la reconnaissance de la légitimité de l'association nationale à représenter le mouvement des AMAP et à mener des actions en son nom pour le mouvement des AMAP, et en obtenant l'adhésion des différents réseaux et des AMAP, donc dans les différentes régions.
Francois, sorry to interrupt. Could you speak slightly slower? Just to give. Could you speak slightly slower?
Ok.
Thank
Pardon
you.
pour les interprètes. Je reprends. Donc, ce qui a permis de lever en partie cette problématique, ça a été le chantier d'écriture, de réécriture de la charte des AMAP. Donc, il y avait déjà une charte des AMAP qui avait été écrite très rapidement en 2003, et il y avait un besoin de la mettre à jour 10 ans après le début des AMAP. Et donc, voilà, en lançant un grand chantier participatif, national, où on a pu faire participer des milliers de personnes du mouvement à dire ce qu'ils voulaient qu'il y ait dans la nouvelle charte des AMAP, et ben, ça a beaucoup aidé. Ça a permis qu'il y ait beaucoup de rencontres sur le terrain, sur le territoire, et ça a vraiment montré l'intérêt d'avoir une association nationale pour avoir véritablement un socle commun des valeurs et des principes et des engagements qu'on voulait que les AMAP, sur lesquels les AMAP se reconnaissent. Donc ça a mis le Miramap sur de bons rails pour la suite. Et donc, ce qu'on peut dire, c'est que ça a permis aussi à de nombreux acteurs du mouvement de se connaître leurs positions, leurs différences, le contexte dans lequel ils évoluaient, puisqu'en fonction des différentes régions où les personnes avaient créé des AMAP, les problématiques n'étaient pas les mêmes et ils n'avaient pas forcément la même vision de ce qu'était une AMAP. Donc ça, le Miramap et le chantier de réécriture de la charte a beaucoup aidé. Et il y a eu d'autres projets dans la suite qui ont émergé, des problématiques, mettre en place des sortes d'évaluation participative dans les AMAP et dans les réseaux d'AMAP, un petit peu l'équivalent des systèmes participatifs de garantie, ou quelque chose qui s'en inspire. Et du coup, ça permet vraiment ça a permis vraiment de gagner la reconnaissance. Pardon. Donc voilà. Et ce qu'on peut dire 7 ans après, c'est que ça a beaucoup amélioré le fonctionnement en réseau du mouvement des AMAP. Donc on peut dire, et ça a permis du coup aux acteurs comme le Miramap, mais aussi certains réseaux régionaux, à gagner en légitimité, en reconnaissance, et ça a beaucoup amélioré leur fonctionnement sur le terrain, plus de fluidité, plus de capacité à construire des choses collectivement. Voilà tout ce que je pouvais dire.
Thank you, Francois. I know everybody's really enthusiastic. If we can all speak as slowly, and I know I speak fast, so if we can all try and speak slowly, it'll help the interpreters who are doing a fantastic job. Francois, I just wanted to check I'd understood properly that one of your biggest challenges was that you had, I think, lots of regional networks all sort of not connected, and that as a national network, you were trying to tie those together somehow, and you did some kind of online participatory exercise looking at the different needs of different regional networks. Is that correct? And that actually that participatory exercise has really helped understand problems and pull you all together?
Alors, j'ai une nouvelle fois un problème d'interprétation en français.
Yep.
J'ai compris la question, hein, j'ai compris, mais voilà, j'entends maintenant.
Is that correct? Yep. Okay. I'm not getting the translation back, but that's my sort of summary of what you said is about right. That's been okay. Great. So again, I guess it's the bringing together and the listening and the making contact that feels like helped you overcome the challenge.
C'était une question, hein?
Sort of, I suppose. Yes. Just a confirmation. Okay, great. Thanks, Francois. So Kazumi, do you want to tell us about your biggest challenge with the Japanese network, and how the biggest sort of previous challenge and how you overcame it?
Our biggest challenge is declining membership. And then also we need to involve more young generations. And that's been the challenge. And then also currently online subscription is getting bigger and have an impact on our practices. So it's kind of tough for us to compete with these online subscription.
Can I clarify that the online subscription, so that's not people subscribing online to CSA farms, that's them subscribing online to a different form of buying food?
Oh, yes, online from the sometimes business transactions, or sometimes they don't follow CSA charters or philosophy, or they don't recognize CSA values. They just engage in trading or marketing of agricultural products. So it's basically commercial subscription using online. So that's a challenge for us, because especially young people likes online shopping, and then platform use like YouTube video, and then they advertise, farmers kind of things. So people, especially young people, think that's a good things. I know my farmers, and then I subscribe from them. But it's a very commercialized practices. Yes. So we are still thinking how to compete with those things, and I wanted to learn from many other CSA networks.
Thanks, Kazumi. I mean, I guess I've got a couple of questions. I wonder if, sort of referring back to what Francois said, has anyone else? So we in the UK, we initially, when we set up in 2013, we thought about having regional networks, but we didn't have enough members at that point to make it work. And the idea of having regional hubs kind of quite quickly became, it wasn't working because there weren't enough CSAs in each region. We are sort of rethinking that now, but I wonder if anyone else has got experience of how to hold different regional networks together under a national umbrella. Just, does anyone want to speak to that? Michelle, were you, yeah, great, Michelle.
Sure. Yeah, because the US landmass is so huge, we have experienced this. And so what we've spent a lot of time doing is kind of unifying our messaging so that we can all kind of roll out the same materials, the same messaging, really templating those particular pieces so that we all can use them at the same time. And then we all, like, for instance, we had a marketing campaign for CSA week, and we all use the same materials, we use the same week. And so it was kind of like these small little efforts across the country, but at the same time. So we really had a huge impact. I think we reached 2.5 million people on a very small budget doing that. So things like that, we always struggle with the directories to help consumers find the CSA in those different regions. And there's no, it's such a moving target and it's always changing, right? So there's no kind of national directory for us. So what instead we did was let the regions kind of have their own directories, and then we collectively market those directories through social media mostly, and just try to drive traffic to those regions to then find the farmers closest to them, that type of thing. Those are the two kind of examples that are coming to mind. I think also one last thing, that the unification of data has been really tricky because we want to get a snapshot, especially during COVID, of all the changes that were happening. And so we've been really careful to suggest certain questions that everyone kind of uses together so that we can get that collective picture.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I mean, the data thing for us, evidencing CSA in the UK is really hard. We're quite small, our farms are quite small, so finding the money and resource to do any kind of research which is university evidenced and so then valid for policymakers is quite hard. And actually we look to the US. I mean, there's a lot more research in the US which can be really helpful to make some points. Amazing that you got to 2.5 million people. I mean, that's incredible. And yes, that idea of kind of uniform messages going out across different networks sounds great. I don't know if anyone else has got any thoughts on any of those points. Gael.
Just that CSA is a complex model. It's complicated. And we need people to understand how it works, and it takes longer. The message is hard and complicated to give to the people. So usually I say, ask people to move one step at a time. You cannot change everything at once. Just, okay, let's go a bit further. And for your veggies, maybe you could go there. For the bread, you could go somewhere else. For the eggs, you could go somewhere else. So how do you make a change in people's life with something that is, well, usually I talk about short supply chain, and I say our model is the most complicated one, but is the one that is supporting the most the farmers. So saying to the people, it depends what you want to do. If you really want to support the farmers, then you should go into this kind of model. But we know it's hard. We know it's a big step. So we understand and we move towards that. But I think it's really a challenge. And now we have competition saying we do like CSA, but we're not as annoying as CSA. You don't have to go one day a week. We deliver to your door. It's far easier, and you don't have to go through all the trouble of CSA. But that's where we have to say, yes, but we go into transparency. You want to know the cost? We deliver the cost. You know what's going on? You'll know what's going on. So it's really a long-term message, and there I think working with allies is very important. So I would say other networks, but also people at city level. It's very, in my context, it's very easy to get in touch with people at city level. Maybe not at state-wise, it's a bit trickier, but really state level, because they really want to work into feeding good food to the people. They're really rewriting policy into good food, access to good food and things. And there we can say we have a model. We know it's a tough one, but it's an interesting one. And the feedback I got is that we're pulling the other projects into the good direction. CSA is like pulling people towards something very active and very demanding, but also very helpful for farmers. But competition is getting harder and harder now, yes.
Thanks, Gael. And yeah, you're beginning to touch on something that Kazumi talked about, but I can see Genevieve's got her hand up. And Michelle, is your hand up again or no? Okay. Genevieve, did you want to come in?
Yeah, well, I actually think all the points are super interesting, but actually I had a question more for Kazumi, because I'm interested. We have the same problems of, competing, new platforms emerging, and farmers also joining outside of the network. It was one of the points I was going to talk about, but I'm curious to see in Japan, Kazumi, what are you doing to trying to change that and rally more farmers?
We've been trying to inform people about the importance of agriculture or organic farming or ecological agroecology, those kind of things. And then those are kind of cultivating land organically is something we are making something we can send to the next generations. So we kind of like have a campaign of that kind of things right now to inform young people and invite them to our activities.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to sort of come in and I mean, we had a big discussion last year because as CSA's our membership's got grown quite a lot. I think partly as a result of, it was growing before the COVID pandemic, I think as a result of growing awareness of the need for sustainable food systems, but then it's also grown a lot as a result of COVID with people wanting food, local food. And we had a couple of, so our map, you can put yourself on it. It does have to go through one of the staff members. We get an email saying somebody's added themselves to the map. But we've just redone our website and we made a decision that we would allow kind of anyone to put themselves on the map. I mean, we do kind of check through, but we've got a charter and we ask our paid members, we don't police it, but when they renew every year and pay their yearly subscription, the email says, by paying your subscription, you're sort of agreeing to farm in accordance with the charter. So, and then the farms that aren't members are in it, they're not currently, but they will be in a different colour on the map. And we want to make it clear on the map that the farms that are shown in a particular colour are members and have kind of given us their word that they're farming in accordance with the charter, but that we can't speak for the others. So I guess we're trying to kind of show that there's an appetite for CSA and a bigger movement than the farms that are just in our network, but at the same time kind of state and go on trust. It feels like trust has to be at the bottom of it because that's so much around solidarity farming. But I think I've also been interested, Michelle, you probably know, I think they're called Harvey, a sort of membership platform bloke that writes a lot of blogs about CSA. And I've been interested, I think, with somebody Gael, I think you were saying, again, I think we've been talking a lot about, there are veg box schemes in the UK that offer, it's like going to a supermarket, you can pick exactly what you want and put it in your box. But that's not CSA. I mean, that's not a share of what's in the field. It's not, and and with delivery, and I don't think there's a right or wrong, but there's a question around how much we make it easy for people and how much we stick to, what's not easy but real, but grown absolutely locally with what you can grow in the area. And I guess, I don't have an answer to that, but I think it's a really interesting question, especially as we're growing, as CSA is getting more well known. Then how do we kind of keep it true at the same time as growing it. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on that. Or anyone in the audience too. Michelle.
Well, I was just going to share it is very challenging. It's the trend of retention, or the retention challenge is the hugest challenge, right? And the trend is to really cater to the customer, the consumer. And so it's like, how do you balance what's true to CSA of like you're buying into what's available on the farm versus how are you responding to that consumer demand of like, we want choice. So I don't know that I welcome the suggestions to that answer, but we struggle with that all the time.
Does anyone else have any thoughts? I think this is a really interesting question, and one that's probably going to get bigger before it gets smaller.
I do. I think what keeps it true is having a real connection with actual farms. The farms are directly involved in running the project. And then all of the details can be different from one to another. There are no two farms or CSAs that are alike. I've studied hundreds of them, and they aren't ever identical. And that's good. And for each farmer, there's a different part of the risk of farming that they need their members to share. So that's what we need to convey to people. If you want to have food that's grown in your country, in your locality, and really produced by people who care a lot for the quality of what they're feeding you, then you need to share the risk in some way. And it can be by paying advance, by accepting that you won't get the same thing every year, whatever it is that the farmers most need. So that's my contribution.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I've heard you speak on webinars before, and you always say very beautiful, concise, and yeah, things. That a different part of the risk of farming is a different part for each CSA. And actually, what you've made me think is that actually it's when it's, I mean, on a personal level, it's when we show our vulnerabilities that we attract trust and care from others. And actually it's in some senses, maybe it's when the CSA shows its vulnerabilities and shares that risk that they then really generate that trust and belonging and sense of kind of solidarity with the farm.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, because we've done so much work in the buy local campaigns to make it, oh, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's delightful, it's charming. And that tends to hide the fact that it's really a struggle for family scale farms to stay in business. But on the other hand, we don't want to sound miserable either, but we do need to be honest. But I would like to make sure that everybody hears in detail what the people have done in Quebec to establish solid financial support from members and farmers, and it's in exchange for really good service.
Well, I guess I can speak to that. But if you, thanks for that, Elizabeth, and thanks for your books, by the way. What I meant to say is, I think I mentioned before, but yeah, I do think for us, what was key from the start, and actually there's often a divide between farmers about that, but that from the start, each client or each eater that subscribed to a farm, the message was definitely like, you need to support your farmers and building on the values and that direct link. So each client pays $18 plus tax to the network. Now the divide between farmers is farmers often feel like that's money that they're paying and not the client, because they could otherwise keep that money. So that sometimes creates tension and forces some people out of the network. But that has been essential in giving us stable funding, in making sure that we have paid staff, and giving us tools. So we started as having a physical printed map of all the farms that were part of the network. And over the years, that's transitioned over this online tool I was showing you earlier. But at the basis is that the farmers also pays into it, of course. Through the online system, we have a percentage of sale. We also pay $350 a year to be part of the network. But I think it's really the $18 is what's it called? It's like the pillar on which the whole thing sits. And then also initially at the basis, it was very much like in other networks around the world, the concept of solidarity was not just paying for a box, but accepting that we didn't have a charter, but we called it an engagement mutuel. So a mutual engagement, I guess, I don't know, in which the client understood that they're taking the risk as well. I think we all do that, but they're taking a risk in signing up some CSA. We don't know what nature will bring, so we'll share, the bounty that comes, whether it's a good year or a bad year. We understand there's a risk into farming, and we're sharing that risk, and that has also it translated into also people working on farms like it does around the world. But I don't know, in Quebec, I think that solidarity aspect was really at the forefront of the message initially, and still today. Why a lot of people do CSA is to have that direct bond and to share the risk of farming with the farmers. And that's what I so agree that as other consumer models emerge, and since COVID in particular with the pandemic, we see everyone kind of selling local or claiming to sell local. Their local is very different than our local often, but that is often a commercial message, and we have to reinforce, the values. The values and the risk, but not frame it in a negative way. Frame it into if we want to have food tomorrow, we need to eat today, and for that to happen, we need to make sure the farmers can make a viable living. And that message, anyway, in Quebec is very, it resonates very deeply. So I'm not sure, Elizabeth, if that gives justice to your question, but that's what I can provide.
Well, I just think people also need to know the services that you provide in exchange for that big investment from the farmers and the members. You provide a lot of really good service.
Yeah, I can go into those a bit, but definitely, and I don't know if that's the norm for most networks actually. But obviously there's constant newsletters. When you talked about messaging, so once a year, at least we have an annual meeting where we sit together and we think about, strategic planning, key messaging, key marketing campaigns. So we work on them during the year, but at the AGM, they're kind of endorsed by everyone. We often have contests to anyway, that's more on the promotional side, but we provide also very key for us is mentoring. So when a farm is accepted in a network, they have a mentor that kind of vets their production plan, because for us, it's not only about having a lot of farmers, but having farmers that provide a certain level of quality, so to ensure that we have retention of clients. So the mentorship, I'm not sure if everyone offers. We organize a lot of events, a lot of farm visits. There's usually 4 to 5 or 4 to 6 visits in a year. Training, so anyone who comes into the network has a mandatory 2-day training where we go into details in terms of how the planning works. We definitely encourage, before people are accepted also into the network, we have something called an accompagnement. So where there's for 1 to 3 years, they can be basically we'll promote them, but we'll say they're not officially a full member. That's a bit like with organic. It's kind of the equivalent of transitioning to organic. So that means that during those years, we can provide them more support, and we usually put on limit. We'll say we'll accompany you, but you have to make sure from what we saw, you need maybe more HR, or you need to have a certain amount of maximum baskets, or have you thought of this? Or anyways, we'll guide them a bit along the way. We do offer the online tool, as I said. Obviously, there's also support if a farm needs to develop new drop-offs, that we have staff that help them do that. We do price checks of distributors, farmers markets, and others, so that we make sure basically that across the network, each farm may sell their carrots at a different price, but overall it's within the same reasonable bracket. I feel like I'm talking about a lot of different things. We have a group discount card to distributors, but that's a smaller thing. The biggest thing is, we go back to the management tool. We started as a map, and the map was so beneficial for clients and for farmers. It was like a really easy marketing. You could bring it to everyone and say, here are all the drop-offs of the farms in Quebec. If I'm near you, pick me. If not, here are the other farms. But over the years, we've transitioned that into online tool. Oh yeah, sorry. Over the years, we transitioned to online tool, but it's an online tool that was designed by the farmers for the farmers. So in Quebec, there's about 3 or 4 other platforms that are more popular, not more popular, that are also popular. However, one of them, Farmigo, has gone out of business like 3 times, or bankrupt 3 times. This one, by having part of the $18 fees invested this online tool, we make sure that we have a map where that, we've adapted to being bilingual. It's the online tool that's bilingual in Quebec. We make sure that all the farmers of the network are on there. People can sign up and have a calendar. But it also serves for the farmers as a management tool. So you can know on each delivery drop-off points who your clients are and all that. So you don't have to go and get another service anywhere else. Basically, we reinvest in the network by using that tool. So I'm not sure that's key, but over the years, and I'm not even mentioning the policy work that we've done, but over the years, I would say the map and the online tool have been really what has brought a lot of farmers to us and the credibility that we've built. Initially, for a good 15 of the 25 years, we were the ones pushing hard that CSA was a model. Anyway, I feel like, Elizabeth, you would have answered the question better than I am right now, but I do think we have an amazing network, but we're at a time where, like all of you, the pressure from other, online tools, the pressure of farmers who don't necessarily want to abide by all the farmers who don't want to be vetted, that's increasing. So I'm also scared for the future, but I'm very hopeful that we'll keep being strong.
Thanks, Genevieve. That's super interesting. And I mean, yeah, we've had a discussion about, we call them tithes, where members of farms would pay towards the central network. And we've had the same fear from farms that if we start doing that, they'll lose money. And so there's kind of been some unwillingness to do that. We haven't yet adopted it. But yeah, really interesting to just hear you charge a lot more than we do for your membership, but you're also giving a lot more. It's fascinating, kind of that comparison. I know Touria wants to speak to us from the Moroccan network. So Touria, do you want to unmute and talk about your experience? Touria?
Soria ou Touria? Ah, Touria, ok. Moi, j'ai entendu Soria. Ok. Oui, donc, je voudrais partager donc notre expérience. Je crois que je suis une des seules représentantes des pays du Sud. Donc, évidemment, nous avons les mêmes problèmes que vous avez cités, donc une certaine concurrence, pas toujours facile. L'engagement, évidemment, est très, très important en agroécologie, hein, dans les trois dimensions. Donc, l'écologie, bien sûr, ça, les gens comprennent assez. Le deuxième volet, c'est l'éthique. Là, c'est déjà plus compliqué parce que pour nous, c'est quelque chose, enfin, ici, pour beaucoup de gens, c'est quelque chose d'assez nouveau. La gouvernance horizontale, le système participatif. Il y a encore cette habitude de travailler en vertical. Voilà, on dit d'en haut et en bas, on exécute. Il y a beaucoup de choses à changer. Oui. Parlez plus doucement. Je n'entends rien.
Can you speak slowly?
Et donc, d'accord. Donc, nous travaillons sur les 3 dimensions et c'est pas toujours facile. En agroécologie, c'est une nouvelle vision. Les gens, ils connaissent le bio, mais ils connaissent pas encore l'agroécologie. Et même ceux qui sont en agroécologie, certains sont plus exigeants en voulant de la permaculture. Enfin, nous avons des cultures très différentes en fonction du passé de chacun. Donc, nous avons des gens qui savent très bien ce dont il s'agit. Et jusqu'aux analphabètes au Maroc, on a un grand taux d'analphabétisme. Et ça, c'est quand même très, très difficile à gérer parce que non seulement on a 3 langues au Maroc, hein, donc le français, l'arabe et la mazéria. Et tout ça, c'est pas évident. On doit tout traduire, tout interpréter. Enfin, je vous laisse imaginer. Mais surtout aussi des problèmes de mentalité. Parce que quelqu'un qui sait ce que c'est que l'agroécologie, bon, ben, c'est facile. Quelqu'un qui sait ce que c'est que la gouvernance horizontale, c'est aussi facile. Mais maintenant, il faut tout réexpliquer que c'est pas comme ça que ça marche, qu'on construit ensemble le système participatif, qu'on fait tout ça. Donc, et aussi les valeurs éthiques, évidemment. Évidemment, hein, nous sommes un pays musulman, donc on a quand même pas mal de travail dans beaucoup de domaines pour l'égalité, pour tout partager, la solidarité. Et bien sûr qu'il y a tout ça ici, mais il faut un petit peu retravailler tout ça. Et la culture aussi est très différente, évidemment. Quand on est dans des coins perdus au Maroc, où je vous dis parfois l'analphabétisme très important, ou à côté de gens qui sont soit européens, soit qui ont beaucoup vécu en Europe et qui peuvent aller beaucoup plus vite. Or, notre travail de développer l'agroécologie dans les régions est quelque chose d'essentiel. Et toujours dans cet esprit de respect de l'autre. Éthiquement, nous avons une charte sur laquelle nous avons beaucoup travaillé et qui est vraiment très, très, très importante. Nous avons ce que nous appelons des néo-ruraux ici, qui ne sont pas l'équivalent de néo-ruraux en France, par exemple, où c'est des citadins qui ont juste envie de vivre à la campagne. Oh, sorry. Donc, des néo-ruraux. Les néo-ruraux, chez nous, c'est des gens qui habitent en ville, mais qui ont un petit terrain à la campagne et qui s'installent. Mais évidemment, ils n'ont pas les mêmes pressions de revenus, parce que l'économique, évidemment, est essentielle. Et le travail avec les petits paysans, comme on dit ici, est très, très important parce que c'est une des dimensions essentielles. Si le jardin ne vit pas de son travail, si le petit paysan ne vit pas de son travail, enfin ça c'est un point que je défends très très fort ici, ben, ce n'est pas agroécologique. L'écologie est une dimension, mais si ça ne fait pas vivre le paysan, pour moi, c'est des notions qu'on travaille de manière très importante. Donc voilà, en ce qui concerne l'économie. Et nos consommateurs, de nouveau, sont dans le camp plutôt des gens aisés, parce que la différence de prix entre nos produits agroécologiques et les prix du marché, c'est un gouffre. Ça peut être un facteur de 10, 20, parce que les produits locaux sont vraiment pas chers. Et donc là, il faut encore plus expliquer pourquoi est-ce que je vais payer une tomate 10 dirhams, ou enfin 1 euro, 2 euros, alors que sur le marché, elle est à 10 centimes d'euros. C'est pas évident. Et pourquoi est-ce que vous n'en avez pas? Pourquoi vous n'avez pas des produits tout le temps? Enfin, c'est beaucoup de communication à ce sujet. Alors, nous avions commencé il y a en 2007, enfin, personnellement dans une autre association qui est membre du RIAM, à travailler sur les paniers, comme les AMAP, en 2007, oui. Et ça s'était très bien développé. Et puis, tout ça a perdu de la vitesse et de l'importance, bien que nous avons 2 agriculteurs qui travaillent très bien là-dedans, qui gagnent bien leur vie avec ce système-là. Donc, c'est une bonne réussite selon nous. Le système perd vraiment de la vitesse parce que, avec cause du Covid, les gens avaient peur et ils préfèrent être livrés. Donc, le système de livraison à domicile a été développé au détriment d'un lieu où les gens se rencontrent, sont ensemble. Mais les gens avaient peur du Covid. Et aussi parce que nous développons d'autres circuits de commercialisation qui sont les marchés paysans, des marchés dans lesquels les gens viennent et les gens préfèrent venir acheter au choix, la pièce. Donc voilà, ça c'est les problématiques plutôt des pays du Sud qui rejoignent évidemment ce qui a été dit auparavant, mais avec cette particularité de problèmes économiques beaucoup plus importants et qu'il faut beaucoup plus expliquer. Merci.
Thanks, Turia. I mean, yeah, some really interesting points there about, I mean, I think the cultural differences and how they impact on the way CSA is presented and the way people buy into CSA, understand it. I think the other thing you mentioned, which I mean is actually just the same for us, is how we. So I mean, in Britain we have huge inequality, and you can buy a bag of carrots for 50p from the supermarket, and they are rubbish carrots. But if you have no money, and you're faced with that bag of carrots for 50p or CSA carrots, which cost a lot of money, you're not going to choose CSA because you just don't have the money to do it. And it's something we know that most of our CSA, both the growers and the members, are largely relatively wealthy and relatively white, and we're looking at ways that we can change that, and it's hard. And I mean, yeah, I guess I'm aware we've not got much time. We've got about 15 minutes because Josla would like to repeat the vegetable exercise at the end. We've got a few more questions. I don't know if the panelists, if you have a particular, I'd quite like to ask everybody to just say a few words on what they sort of, after this discussion, how can urgency help develop networks and support CSA networks? But I'm also wondering if people have things that have come out of this conversation they just want to sort of flag up or say a few words on. Anyone got sort of a burning issue, something that they've just thought about? It could be the audience.
À qui la question est posée?
To everyone. Yep, who's that? I can't see who wanted to ask that question. Was it Elizabeth?
I had a comment to throw in.
Non, je veux dire à qui?
Go for it.
Yesterday, we learned from China that their CSA network has enabled the CSA members, the CSA farms, to get additional products from other farms by creating a participatory guarantee system. So any farm in the country that qualifies to be part of the PGS can then distribute its products through CSA farms, which I think is something I haven't heard of anywhere else.
Thank you. Christoph. Oh, you're muted, Christoph.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, my name is Christoph. I'm from Austria, and I have a question to everyone in the panel, because right now in Austria, we are trying to build up the network slowly. There have been some efforts some years previously, but it died down a bit, and now we're slowly trying to connect the CSAs that exist already in Austria again. And yeah, we are just wondering, yeah, I want to hear from your experience where to start or how to start. Of course, now it's a lot of voluntary work from the same few people who make an effort, but yeah, now we're wondering how to get to a proper organization like the ones you have. Thank you.
Who wants to answer that one? Gael.
Just, I held a discussion last time in Thessaloniki during the European meeting. We discussed about networks. So what I could say is there are very different types of networks within urgency. There are some small networks, some big networks, some with staff, some without staff. It's very different. So I think the question is, what do you want the network to do? What is the core part? As Geneviève said, I know in Quebec, in Belgium, in some countries, there is a core group in the network. There are some staff members among the network, and then some functions are done by the network staff. and the groups are lighter somehow. And in some other groups, each group is stronger and the network is very light. It's just to meet once in a while. So you can decide among all the functions that a network could do what you want to put in common. So I think having a map of existing CSA would be a start of discussing about what's going on, what is CSA, and maybe your definition of CSA can be slightly different from the one they have in other country. So just discussing, putting together people saying what is important to us, what does it mean to be a CSA group? In Switzerland, we don't have one CSA model. As long as people are committing in long-term commitment, it can be CSA. There can be 30 members in the group or 400 or 500. We have some CSA group with 500 families with 20 farmers. So it's really different. We just try to connect people and see what we have in common and how we can work together. But I think meeting face-to-face is super important if you want to start a network, and having a nice time and having a party and dance with people and enjoy yourself and just saying, okay, we're together in this. What can we share and what would be helpful for you? And later on, some tools can arrive and some other things, other capacities. But I think meeting and saying, okay, we're in this together. We are totally transparent on how it works. We share any information you need, we can share it. And I mean, with that, it also came to the point where some, we call them geeks, like really IT people, they came up with nice solution, open source solution for CSA management. And now we have some wonderful tools that are open source management systems. And now that's something that's really an added value we can have. And it's because people were really ready to share the knowledge and share the capacity that these things came up. So it came later and it's building more capacity. So I think don't be afraid by the huge, nice, super clever networks where everything is fine with 20 staff. Just go by step and just meet the people and enjoy yourself. I think having a great party in it is important. They are friends.
Thanks, Gael. So I think we've got yeah, let's have a party. I mean, we've all made it through COVID and all the strangeness of that. So yeah, it's great. I mean, well, made it through. It's going to be a while, isn't it? But yeah, it feels like we're at least talking to each other face to face again in the UK. I don't know what it's like everywhere else. We've got probably less than 10 minutes if we want to do the vegetables at the end. So I guess I thought it might be good to hear from well, Christoph and the other 8 networks. What are the 3 top things that Urgency could do to sort of support the growth of CSA, the growth and strengthening of CSA networks across the globe? And I guess I will start with, I mean, one of the things I'd really like is that this group of networks or a wider group of networks meets maybe every 6 months and talks about a subject. I mean, there's so many things that we've talked about today that we could talk about for a couple of hours on each one. And I think I've learned so much from all of you. I'd love to sit down and just have a conversation about some of these subjects. So that's probably my one. I'm not going to say any others, but I think that would be my top one. So I'm going to pass to Michelle.
You took mine. I agree. I would love to see that more cross sharing. I think also, let's see, maybe a kind of a shared platform where we can perhaps we link to the different networks websites or something on the Urgency website to start sharing those resources that we all have better, those stories, and learn from each other more.
Toria, are you there? Do you want to say what you think Urgency should do to support you and other networks? I mean,
oui, oui, en fait, les réseaux, leur problème important, c'est de réseauter. Donc, c'est la communication. Donc, peut-être aider chaque structure nationale à développer ces outils pour une communication optimale entre les réseaux, mais aussi interne. C'est pas facile. C'est vraiment pas facile. Nous, on vit beaucoup ce problème, en dehors des problèmes locaux, hein, je vous dis de traduction, d'interprétation, d'explication, mais déjà un système de communication qui va vraiment fluidifier et rendre plus transparents nos échanges sans être très long, sans être trop... franchement, on a un gros problème de communication. Je ne sais pas si les autres ont le même, parce que peut-être qu'on manque de personnes, on est un petit réseau, on fait beaucoup de bénévolat, et peut-être que nos moyens sont peut-être un peu limités, donc peut-être qu'on peut trouver des moyens qui ne sont pas si chers, et se former à ça, par exemple, ou partager des outils dans ce sens.
Thank you, Turia. I mean, yeah, with communications, maybe there's a way that some of the social media work that different networks are doing could be translated and shared or adapted for different networks. I mean, I don't know whether that would be useful, but maybe there's some sharing we could do around that. Annika.
Yeah, the knowledge and experience sharing was already mentioned, but also for us, it's sometimes hard to translate all the stuff happening here and give it down to our members and to others. So yeah, I don't know how urgency could help, but it's mainly the time missing to translate into German, to do reports about all the amazing stuff happening here that's now just in my head, and of course in a YouTube channel, but yeah, it would be really great to have more like condensed information and stuff about what's all happening in all these things that we can really easily also pass onto our members and CSAs in a way that they have time to really grasp all the things going on. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, support in resources for translation, and of course the political support. That's really important for us because we cannot do this on our own. Yes.
Thanks, Annika. I mean, that just also made me wonder whether urgency could put out a kind of, we get lots of people coming asking about volunteering, and we don't have that much interesting volunteering, but pointing people towards urgency to do translations and get involved might be a good thing. Kazumi, what could urgency do? Are you there, Katsumi? Can you hear me? Great.
Yes. For urgency, maybe disseminating CSA to world population more. So you already did a lot of things, but still some people don't know about this idea about CSAs. So that would help us to going back to talk to our people. And then also maybe working with FAO or other United Nations organization would help us to inform our people. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Kazumi. Francois.
Eh bien, en France, on avait essayé de mettre en place des formes de systèmes participatifs de garantie. Donc, il y a des sessions précédentes où on a un peu parlé, des formes d'évaluation participative entre pairs pour voir un peu les problématiques qu'il y a dans la map, que ce soit du côté du paysan ou du côté du groupe, avec un regard extérieur. Et lors du projet qu'on avait mené, qui a été mené avec Urgency et d'autres membres de pays européens, projet Eat in Craft, l'idée, ça a été de voir un petit peu comment on pouvait adapter un peu ces approches de système participatif de garantie à l'ASC. Et ce qu'on voyait un peu dans ces approches de système participatif de garantie, c'est qu'on n'était pas obligé d'aller jusqu'à une certification dans l'objectif, ni même forcément de garantir la qualité du fonctionnement des produits, mais au moins une approche d'éducation populaire, d'amélioration des pratiques. Et du coup, il y avait pas mal de méthodologies qui existent déjà, et que Urgency partage déjà un petit peu. Le réseau des GAZAP en Belgique utilise ça. Donc, ça peut demander un certain nombre de moyens, mais après, l'idée, c'est que de toute façon, comme l'a dit Yael, il faut y aller petit à petit. Et voilà, quoi. Le système, tout dépend de l'ambition qu'on a quand on l'utilise, mais on peut quand même partir sur des approches de ce type, il me semble, pour améliorer la communication, l'éducation populaire, la connaissance entre les personnes, la connaissance que les acteurs du mouvement ont de ce que c'est une ASC, pour comprendre les choses dont on n'a pas déjà parlé. Voilà.
Je peux peut-être compléter. Je vais compléter un petit peu ce que dit François. Comme en France, les AMAP se sont d'abord créés sur le terrain, notre travail, c'est de les rassembler et surtout de ne pas parler en leur nom. Et pour ça, il faut faire beaucoup de travail participatif. Et ce que les AMAP nous ont envoyé comme message au niveau interrégional, nous ne sommes pas un mouvement national, mais un mouvement interrégional. C'est-à-dire qu'on met en contact entre elles les différents réseaux régionaux pour ne pas construire une pyramide de pouvoir, c'est d'être visible et de porter plus fort le message des AMAP dans le débat public. Pour que si on est mieux reconnu sur le plan national, quand les AMAP régionales ou locales vont parler avec leurs décideurs publics, elles ont plus de poids. Et nous, c'est pareil. Quand au niveau national, interrégional, on a plus de poids, si dans les régions, les gens ont déjà plus de poids localement. Et tout ça, ça se construit en même temps. Mais il y a un gros problème, ce que disait François tout à l'heure, sur la légitimité de la parole quand on représente avant tout des gens qui se sont organisés sur le terrain et qui ne se rassemblent pas tous dans le Miramap. C'est un gros travail pour les rassembler. Et voilà, et il y a des conflits, bien sûr, comme partout. Voilà, j'ai dit.
Je voudrais encore donner une information.
Thank you, Evelyn, and thank you, Francois. And I'm aware, Gaëlle and Genevieve, you've both put things in the chat. Do you want to very quickly say what you put in the chat? Because I think they're both really good points. Genevieve?
Yeah, I can go first. What Urgency could do, exactly, like I think increasingly that we should maybe do what we do in Quebec on a yearly basis and come together to strategize on joint communications, marketing, policy work that we can do, and better organize to do the policy work together. And this whole system, like I hadn't thought about it before today, but maybe we should work on common IT or online platforms, because the challenge, like for us, we're very proud of what we've built, but making sure it's up to date and, you know, alive tomorrow is a constant struggle. But I think we all face the same. But what if the CSA networks all had one platform? Anyway, maybe it's not feasible, but there might be some tools that we could work together. And then I also wanted to end by just saying that one of my biggest concerns, and Turia did touch on this, I really 100% believe CSA is the most viable model for small family farms or medium family farms. However, as you know, market expands and the clients want more flexibility, we want to extend the season, I'm really more worried about the pressure we're putting on family farmers and if that model can remain viable. And I think as a movement, we need to think about that, like how to make sure that it remains viable with all the pressures. anyway, my 2 cents, but thanks for having me today. It was great being here.
Thanks, Genevieve. And Gael?
Just one last word about my work at my advocacy work. I do many things, but one of my most important points is working advocacy. I work quite a lot with university people and students, and I want people to be involved because I'm not able to provide data, and I need the data for advocacy work. So I really think that partnership with university would be interesting, and we should work more on that. I know some things have been done, but more could be done. And I also would like to point out that partnership with the city and explaining what CSA is all about to people working for city council, people working of good food. And, well, one of the things is lots of people talk about food, but they don't talk about agriculture. Or people talk about agriculture, but they don't talk about food. And I think the connection between food and agriculture is super important. And it's not always the same policy. It's not the same people. So really making the connection, saying we are CSA, we are at the same time farmers and consumers. And we are interested in both topics, not only agriculture, but also people eating. We're here also to make connections. And I think there are many things to be done in that field. Really, I wanted to highlight that. And I would be very open to discuss more about this. I'm very passionate about all these. So please get in touch.
Brilliant. We are over time. So I'm going to save the chat. I think hopefully Urgency will also save the chat and we can make it available to people who've been on. Really lovely to meet you all. Thank you everybody who's been a panelist. Thank you the contributors from non-panelists. Yeah, and thank you translators. You've done an amazing job. We've all spoken really enthusiastically and quickly, and you've done a great job of translating for us. So yeah, thank you. We're gonna just, if the panelists could stay on to do one more vegetable photo, that would be great. But for everyone else, you can stay on and watch us having another photo taken, or you can leave now. But yeah, thank you very much and hope to see you all soon. Okay, bye.
Thank you, brilliant, everyone. So just let's finish with a nice veggie picture. So please take your vegetable again. I'll see who has the vegetable and I will highlight so that we have a nice picture of the panel. Even the non-panelists can come in. So Christophe, I see you. So please stay with us. Baldo as well. I'll add you to the picture.
Toria and Kazumi.
Ah, perfect.
So Toria is not in the, oh yeah.
Ah, sorry, that was a mistake by me. Wait a second. Sorry, just a second. Here. Hold on for a minute. Sorry, I have to do again all the pin. I know some have like heavy vegetables, but please, just a minute. I'm sorry.
What can we make out of all the veg we've got?
Sorry?
What can we make out of all the vegetables we've got?
Very good soup, I guess. No?
Roast squash.
Let me see if I can add Toria without.
Annika, what have you got?
Perfect. Okay, great, really good. Wait a second. I'm taking the picture now. We are ready.
I want to know what Annika's holding. I want to know what Toria is holding.
I have Rübstiel. I don't know the English name.
C'est ce qu'on appelle un vieux légume.
This is regional for the Rhineland. They really like to eat it here. I did not know it in Bavaria before.
Ou un légume ancien. C'est de la famille des artichauts.
What about Toria? Is that celery? It's not celery, no?
Oui, donc c'est un C'est ce qu'on appelle le cardon en français. C'est de la famille des artichauts. Ça fait des petits artichauts, mais c'est les tiges qu'on mange.
Gaël,
Nous, ici
Michel,
au Maroc,
the
on en fait
last
des
one,
tagines.
please.
Mais en France, je crois qu'ils en font des
Nice
gratins.
smile. Sorry, Toria.
Ici, c'est quelque chose de
Evelyn,
très, très, très courant.
Here we go.
Vous avez entendu avant, mais je crois que ça devient tellement difficile à nettoyer que les gens ne font plus ça. Voilà. Oui. Ah oui, oui, bien sûr, mais c'est ce qu'on appelle un légume ancien, c'est-à-dire qu'ils reviennent un petit peu à la mode. Enfin, je voulais vous montrer ça parce que je savais que c'était une curiosité quand même.
Gaël. Gaël, can you hold your veggie? Yes. And the very last picture, I'm putting myself into the picture. So yeah, that's for my own pleasure. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. I think
Thank you, everyone.
Quite a good stock of pictures, and thank you so much for all the discussion that was really enriching for us for urgency. We will take on board all what have been said towards our General Assembly as well.
Is everyone happy? Is everyone happy if I